Hi, I'm Trish. Welcome to the Gig House Kitchen. As it's coming up to the holidays, we thought we'd show you how to make some mince pies, so let's get down to it. As always, before we start, we need to do a couple of things. If you have an electric oven, now is the time to put it on to 200 degrees centigrade. And if you have a gas oven, now is the time to put it on to gas mark 7. The second thing we need to do is to prepare the ingredients. Now these particular mince pies have very few ingredients. In this bowl I have 450 grams of plain flour. I have a pinch of salt, a good pinch of salt, which is about 1/4 teaspoon. And we also have 340 grams of soft tub margarine. Now the type of pastry we're going to make is an enriched short crust. A normal short crust would have half fat to flour and would use 2 different types of fat. We're just going to use 1 type of fat, and it's going to be roughly 3/4 fat to flour. We're going to do this recipe in stages, and we're going to start with stage 1, which is making the pastry. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my good pinch of salt and put it into my flour. So we're just going to put the margarine into the flour, and then with the tips of our fingers we're going to rub the fat or the margarine into the flour. This will probably take you a couple of minutes to do it properly because this is quite a lot of mixture. We're making 2 dozen mince pies, and you might think that sounds a lot, but in a busy family with people dropping in as well, 2 dozen mince pies really doesn't go very far in the holiday season. When you're rubbing in, it's very important to try not to use the palms of your hands, because that's the hottest part of your hands, and as with all pastries you need to keep it as cool as possible and all the ingredients as cool as possible. Now if you're quite warm-blooded, you can actually make this very easily in a food processor. The flour should start to take on the colour of the margarine. I'm slightly lifting it out of the bowl to keep it cool and to incorporate a little bit of air to make them a little bit lighter. Little tip, shake the bowl, all the lumps will come to the top. Now lots of people will tell you never over rub pastry because it can make it tough. However, this is an enriched mixture. It's got a lot of fat in it already. The other thing is as well that if you do slightly over rub, you use less water. And if you use less water, it makes the pastry crisper and nicer to eat. It should start to come together already into a dough almost, but I'm going to add a little bit of water, because if you don't add some water, you will find that the pastry will be really hard to roll. Now normally this amount of flour would take about 80 mils of water, but I'm actually only going to put in 2 tablespoons, which is 30 mils. Each tablespoon is 15 mils or 3 teaspoons. Now I might put a little bit more water in a minute, but just for now I'm going to see how I go. I'm using a round bladed knife, the sort of knife you'd eat your dinner with, and I'm going to bring it into a dough. Now I think that 30 mils of water is going to be enough, so I'm just going to bring it together as much as I can. There's quite a lot of mixture into the bowl, so it's quite difficult to sort of keep it in the bowl and stir, so you need to concentrate a little bit. But once I've got it going, I'm going to then put my hand in and finish it off, bring it into a dough. Now it's come together into a lovely dough, I'm going to take it out of the bowl, put it onto the table. You can see actually that it's very good short crust because it's got a sort of velvety sheen and a velvety feel to it. I'm going to make it into a square. I haven't put any flour down yet. Now I've got it into a nice square, I'm going to take a floured plate. I'm going to lift my pastry onto my floured plate and cover it with cling film. I'm now going to put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. I have the pastry here. It's been in the fridge for 30 minutes. That will help it roll easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut the pastry into 4 with my palette knife. So I've got 4 blocks there. I'm going to put a little bit of flour down, and I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to roll out the first block. Shape it into a circle, and then with even pressure I'm going to roll out the pastry. It's very important that the pastry doesn't stick, so every now and then just pick it up and reflour. I'm giving it a little turn every now and then, or every roll, to make sure that again it doesn't stick. As to size, I'm using my rolling pin as the guide, and it's about 3/4 the size of the rolling pin by just half the rolling pin. Just gives you a rough idea of the thickness. We're now going to cut them out. I have here my 30-year-old cutters that I keep gravitating back to all the time. I'm going to use the large cutter for the base of the mince pies and the middle cutter for the top of the mince pies. I'm going to cut out the rounds. I'm going to use the middle cutter to cut out the tops first, because the first roll of the pastry is the best. So obviously the tops need to be made out of the best pastry. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The leftover pastry I'm just going to bring together and put on the side, and that's what's going to be used to cut out the bases, which don't need to be as good pastry. Right, I'm going to get my tins. Now these are bun tins or pate tins, and I'm going to line the bases with the pastry, larger pastry circles. Being very careful not to cut the pastry with my fingernails. I finished cutting out the rounds for the bases and the tops, and all I have left over is this little bit of pastry. I've also filled most of the mince pies, and I've just left these 3 to show you. I'm going to take about half a dessert spoon of mincemeat and put it into the base of the pie. Now, lots of people feel like putting a lot more in, which sounds like a good idea, but what happens is they just burst and make a mess. It takes a long time to clean the tin, and it doesn't make very nice looking mince pies. So stick to roughly that amount. Right, I'm just going to add a little bit more to there and to there, so that they're even. And as you can see, we've filled all 24. I'm now going to show you how to put the lids and some different toppings on to decorate them. So we'll first of all get rid of the mincemeat, and as you can see I have all my rounds rolled out. Now I'm going to start putting the rounds on. Again, quite often you'll see in some recipes where people put water around the edge. I find that just makes the mince pie not as good. So I tend to just get the round and put it on, and then with my middle finger I pat it down really quite hard to seal it. Going to the next one. It's very quick once you get going. You can see that that amount of mincemeat we put in is just right. You don't want any of it coming out in the heat of the oven and spoiling the look of your mince pies. As you can see, all 24 mince pies now have their lids. I'm going to make a mixture of different decorations on the top. The first one I'm going to show you, or the first 6 I'm going to do, is literally get a scissors, a kitchen scissors, and put in 2 cuts on top of each mince pie. This does let the steam out as well, which is got an added advantage. Right, the second decoration I'm going to show you is putting on some almonds, which go really brown when they're baking and toasted and really are very yummy. So I'm going to do exactly as I've done before for the first 6 and put some cuts on the top with my scissors, and then I'm going to sprinkle some on top, some almonds on top. Now again, you could put an egg wash on, or you could put water on top to make them stick. Not really necessary. I like to put them on and then just gently mould them into the pastry with my fingers. So that's the first 12 done. Now with these 12, I'm first of all going to put a little cut, just one cut in the top to let the steam out, that's all. You won't actually see this. And then over here I have some decorations made out of pastry that I've cut out using these great little cutters. I've got a holly leaf and I've got a Christmas snowflake. And what I'm going to do, I've cut 6 of each out, I'm going to literally pop them on the top. They're just a little bit of fun really to make the mince pies look a little bit special. Again, no need to wet, just press down the middle with your finger. Because it's an enriched pastry and very, very soft and full of fat, things do tend to stick to it quite easily. So I'm just going to make sure that this is centre. Getting very excited about having one. As you can see, I'm dropping my utensils. There we go. So, 2 dozen mince pies with different decorations. I'm going to put these in the oven now. They're going to take about 10 or 15 minutes to cook, so I'll see you in a moment. The mince pies are now out of the oven and we put them on a cooling tray and they're now cool. So now I'm going to show you how to finish them. Here I have a lovely little sugar shaker which I bought from a Norfolk antique shop. I put the mince pies on top of a tray. What I'm going to do now is literally brush them with icing sugar out of my sugar shaker. If you haven't got a little sugar shaker, then obviously you could just use a sieve. Okay, so they look nice and pretty, and we'll do the others. Now, if you shake over the tray, obviously it's going to be a lot easier then just to take the tray off and give it a wipe rather than cleaning up sugar off your work surface for ages. There we go. Okay, now over here I've got a nice silver salver. I always think they look very nice on a silver salver, and so I'm going to put them in a pile on my tray. So there we have it, 24 festive mince pies. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. See you again next time in the Gig House Kitchen. Bye!